to Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne. I am Lorianne Casdia. Our goal here at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show. I am Coach Lorianne. So happy that you're here today, and we are going to give you some verbal caffeine to light you up with possibilities. And today on our show, we have two beautiful guests. Our first guest is Lisa Chalker. She is a multipreneur who owns two businesses, understands the necessity to diversify your income and being financially empowered through financial literacy. She's an investment advisor representative and a certified financial educator who owns her own financial agency, and her mission is to help people save more money and earn more money. Loving that so much. In addition, we have my dear friend, Margreit McInnis. She's on today. She is also a financial professional for 25 plus years. So woman brings incredible amount of information. And she loves helping bring financial literacy to as many people as possible. Author of two action adventure historical fiction novels. You guys might remember her on the show previously, based on her true story of one of her ancestors. And I believe it was your grandfather, right?
Two great
grandfathers. Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, welcome to the show, ladies. I'm so happy to have you, Lisa, Margreit.
Excited to be here, Lorianne.
So happy.
Absolutely.
So in this time, everybody's hearing all these financial things. It's been a little harder these days because of everything that's going on. And financial stability is something that we're all clinging to and we're all worried about. So let's just talk about, first of all, why is financial literacy so important? Lisa, why don't you start?
Well, I can take it from my own experience. I was very financially illiterate for decades of my life. And, I had nothing to show for it now. And, everybody thinks, I'll wait till my 30s, 40s, my 50s, I'll be okay. And when I got to my 50s, I realized how wrong I was. And when I started to get financially literate, my life literally started to change for the better. I'm playing catch up now and just trying to pay it forward to help people that are in our age group have to undo the mess that they brought themselves into, and hopefully grab the younger generation and say, kind of, don't be me. And let's get you on track in a better situation than I was.
Yeah. So let me just reframe that for a second, is don't be so hard on yourself, because none of us were taught what to do. That's not Absolutely a class true. We have in school. Nobody teaches us that. Why is that? That makes me insane. This is an important element that we need to teach. And that's why both of you being in financial literacy is so important. So why are we taught that?
I really think it's because, well, first of all, the financial and the educational system is really rigged to cause the common person to fail financially.
Sure.
What the schools were really meant to do is churn out workers. That's what they were meant to do. And it's a sad thing that our kids come out in debt from school. They got to go right into college, get into debt. Parents are in debt. They get credit cards. They're in debt. And then they hope that they get a job to get them out of debt. And the thing is most of the time they don't. And it's a sad thing, but our society is a debt-driven society. And that's
sure. Well, that equals control. See, when
Yes.
you're in debt, other people
Absolutely.
have control over you. You actually lose a lot of your control. Margreit, what are your thoughts on this? Because it makes me crazy.
Well,
We've had these conversations.
Listen, I am crazy passionate about literacy at all levels, but financially specifically, there is a huge gap for people to sort of maybe understand that, the stock market generally trends in an upline, right? Like, let's just take that concept in and of it. It's choppy, right? We never know if it's going to go up, down, or sideways, but let's just assume it goes in an upward trending line over 100 years. They understand, or they can grasp that, hey, I put $100 in, I make 10%, I'm going up, but they don't connect it on the other side of the balance sheet, right? Which is debt, which is exactly what Lisa was just thinking about, that people pile on the debt, think I'm just going to pay the minimum and I can get my kids through college. I can get the car, I can get the television or whatever it is, and I'll just pay that minimum, or the teaser rate, right? There could be a teaser rate, but they don't understand that is not even 10. It's usually 15 or 20, but let's just say for sake of argument, it's still 10. You're going backwards 10, and people don't equate the going forward 10 in the stock market versus going backwards 10 in the debt. So that's a number one, understanding what fees people are paying, understanding, just some of those basics how to gain control over your cash flow. It's cash flow. It's understanding what your net worth is, how to even calculate it. It's not that people don't have the capacity or the ability to learn it. It's just not a focus. It's not where we're hammered on, knowing the order of the presidents. We are supposed to know trigonometry and algebra and, geometry and all of that. But some of these basic things, like I went to home economics, but I was taught how to bake cookies.
Yeah.
And
that balance a checkbook.
Yeah, but nothing. Yeah, I was, taught how to clean at that time, not to date myself, but with dangerous chemicals. But anyway, so there's a huge gap. And me, 25 years in this business, I came into it mid to late 20s, and I, had people in my family experiencing financial disruptions. Yeah. And I wanted to understand what was going on. And the more I learned, and then I worked in the mutual fund industry. I went back to school, I did the financial planning thing. And every time I meet with clients, it was always get to the basics. What is a mutual fund? What is a stock? What is a bond? And people thinking if I buy a bond, I'm not at risk. Yes, you're still at risk. That doesn't mean it's a bad or good. It's just understanding what it all is. And it's just such a huge gap that I just try with every single client meeting to find out from them where they are. Where are we? Do we know our cash flow? Do we know our net worth? Do we know what the difference between a straight up one stock versus a mutual fund? And that I kind of gauge from what the clients tell me where I need to start.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I liken it to my boys is when they went into college, they got inundated with credit card applications and invitations and stuff like that. And it's very, it's something that you don't understand how dangerous credit cards are until you understand how dangerous credit cards can be. And yet there's a purpose and a use for them, and you can use it, but you need to use it wisely. And we're in a world right now where carrying around cash is not something that a lot of people do. I remember my dad only paid by cash, so I was structured that way because that's how my family worked. And, we're not engaging our young people and giving them the tools they need, but you guys are. And you're also trying to unwind what we need to know now at an older age so that we can be comfortable and safe and build wealth, because it can be done, and it's easily done.
It absolutely can be. And just because you're middle class, or you're just starting out, or maybe you're switching your job around, and so your income's a little bit interrupted, or it's lower, or it's not as high as you want, it doesn't mean you can't participate. It's just knowing what tools are available to you. And most people not in the financial industry, which is most people, don't know how many tools are actually available and that can benefit them, significantly in the short, medium, and long term.
So I know that there are milestones to financial security and independence. And Lisa, I think you taught me that there are 7 money milestones. What are those milestones?
Well, the first one is, I know it sounds corny, financial education is the first one.
Okay.
Then you need to have that budget so that we can see how we can help you build an emergency fund. Most families can't even have $400 in an emergency fund. If an emergency came up, they would pull the credit card out and they would get into debt. And especially with inflation now, where everything is more money, so you're having to have an extra $400. Where are they going to find that? We're helping people get out of debt. That's another money milestone, is getting out of debt. It's protecting assets with life insurance. And these are conversations you need to have. It's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to think about somebody passing away. Do you have peace of mind that your family is going to be okay while they're mourning your death? You got to make sure they're not being kicked out of their financial crisis. It has to be something that's done earlier and younger, because that's based on age and health. Then we help people build their wealth. That's very important. That's what Margreit was alluding to, is building this, accumulating the wealth while you're young. Time is very valuable. And if you start to shorten that, if you start to wait till you're in your 40s and 50s, you have to play massive catch up. Where if you start younger, a little bit of money over a long enough period of time on a decent rate of return will get you wealth. And then the most important thing is, the final milestone is protecting that wealth. because the best money you have is the money you don't lose. And that's what I like to do. Right now, our industry is not doing right by the consumers, because if they were, more people wouldn't be afraid of outliving their income in retirement. Remember, we're living 30 something years in retirement. Every day is a Saturday. Most people think, oh, I have I'll be able to pay my expenses. That's paychecks. But do they have any play checks? Do they have anything to go playing golf? Do they have to now start going back to work?
Yeah.
Plan. I mean, people don't plan to fail. They fail to plan.
Yes, indeed. Margreit, let's just go back to one of the steps that just came and went bam, the emergency fund.
Yes.
I'm a true believer. My father taught me 3 to 6 months. I have 6 months worth of emergency funding. So if something, God forbid, happened, I'm good for 6 months. But after that,
Yeah.
So we talk about emergency funds, why it's important, what's the minimum people should have, and what should they try to build to be in that comfort zone. I'm very comfortable at my 6 months. Probably should have more, but I'm comfortable there.
Well, it starts as Lisa described. So it starts really with understanding your cash flow. So if you don't know what your cash flow is, what you have coming in and what you're spending, you're not really sure what your target is. It's like getting in your car and turning on your navigation and not having a starting point. How does the car know what to tell you, right? So you have to know how to tell yourself, how am I going to get to point B? So point A is understanding and knowing what your cash flow, and that's really simply doing the inventory. And that can be done old fashioned if you're still using a checkbook. It can be done, write it out. It could be done if you're all on auto pay or whatever you are through your checking account, et cetera. But I recommend doing it manually, because the way I learned my mom taught me when I was in school, studying, the more senses that you use in an activity, the more you solidify in your brain what that fact is. So if I go through my cash flow, my oil bill, my cell phone bill, my cable bill, and I literally write it out, I'm writing, I'm seeing, and I might actually be speaking aloud. So I'm using 3 senses as I'm making my expense list. So if you're one of those people that don't know, you kind of, throwing a dart at a board and you think it's 5,000, right? But you might actually be spending 6 or 4, right? But we don't know. So that's the first step. And once you have that number, and let's just say we're here on Long Island, so it's likely to be around 6,000 a month. Most mortgages, taxes, groceries, this, that, whatever, car payments, all in, you're probably around 6. So 6 times 3, right? 18. That's your minimum target, minimum. But we would always recommend to go to 6 months. And to some people, that sounds really daunting. Oh, but I want to invest. Oh, but I want to do this. But here's the thing. This is why cash reserve is really important. Investing is a long-term concern.
Yes.
And the market is up, down, sideways, whatever. We can't predict it. If we all knew that, right, we'd be on the beach in Aruba, right? But we don't know it. So you can't put money at risk if you can't meet your current emergency expenses. So think about car deductibles, homeowner insurance deductibles, health coverage deductibles. If there's a hospitalization, and it could be something like a broken leg, but your copay could be $500 or $1,000 to the hospital. Now what, right? If you don't have that. So there's all kinds of little things that could be deemed as emergencies. So the reason it's important is from a financial perspective, but it's also a stress thing. Imagine going through every single month to month, you're living paycheck to paycheck. You're not really sure what your cash flow is. You don't really know where to start. And that's creating stress on top of regular stress.
Yeah.
And so that's no good. And that just makes us feel like we're on this hamster wheel. We can't get off. There's no direction. We're all over the place. So if we break that down and we have clients do those 2 things first, cash flow, cash reserve, it's irresponsible of a financial professional like myself to say, you know what, you only have 8, you really need 36, but let's start putting money into this mutual fund. That's not responsible. It's not good advice. It's not what people should be hearing. So it's building that base, because not only does that help them financially, but it helps them from relieve stress. Financial stress is one of the number one stressors. It gets reported in the productivity and surveys